All right, let's talk about something that a lot of guys secretly struggle with but almost never admit. Getting her back when you're old, broke, and physically limited. Now, most men think once they've lost their money, their youth, or their strength, they've lost all leverage in relationships. They beat themselves up. They wallow in regret. They think it's over. But here's the reality, and this may shock you: women don't fall in love with your bank account. They don't stay loyal to your six-pack. They don't commit to your youth. What women really fall in love with is how you make them feel. It's your vibe. It's your energy. It's your presence. That doesn't go away just because you got older or life punched you in the face. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're broke and you're sitting around whining about it, feeling sorry for yourself, being needy, or chasing after her like a lost little boy, she's gone. That's not attractive at any age. But if you show up with strength, with grounded masculinity, with calm confidence, you instantly separate yourself from 99% of guys out there. So how do you get her back when you're old, broke, and physically limited? Number one, you stop focusing on your limitations. She already knows what you can't do. She already sees your flaws. What she's looking for is whether you can still be the man who makes her feel safe, cherished, and desired. Number two, you've got to reconnect with your purpose. Because purpose is sexy. When you wake up every morning with fire in your belly, even if your body is slower, even if your pockets are empty, that fire lights her up. And number three, you lead. So you don't wait for her to call to validate you or to save you. You lead with certainty. You lead with clarity, and you lead with love. Because listen, women test. They will test to see if you fold under pressure, if you doubt yourself, if you crumble when things don't go your way. And when you pass those tests, when you stand tall even in your weakest state, she feels it, and she remembers why she fell in love with you in the first place. So yes, you may be old, you may be broke, you may be physically limited. But if you're grounded, centered, and confident in who you are as a man, you are more powerful than you think, and that's what pulls her back into your arms. Most men walk around with this false belief that women fall in love with money, looks, or youth. They assume if they don't have a ripped body, if they don't have a big bank account, if they're not at the top of their game financially or physically, then they've got nothing to offer a woman. And that mindset is poison, because the truth is those things may catch her eye, they may spark some initial attraction, but they are not what makes her fall in love and stay in love. What she really falls for is how you make her feel when she's around you. That's the glue that holds relationships together. That's the invisible force that makes her think about you when you're not there. Think about it. You can be the richest man in the world. You can have a body that looks like it belongs on a magazine cover. You can be decades younger with all the stamina in the world. But if you make her feel unsafe, unloved, unseen, or like she's just another option, she will leave. Or worse, she'll stay physically present but emotionally check out. Women don't tolerate emotional starvation for long. What they crave is connection. They crave the experience of being fully seen and fully felt by the man they're with. That is not something you can buy with money or fake with physical strength. Now let's flip the script. Suppose you're old. Suppose you're broke. Suppose your body isn't what it used to be. If you walk into the room with grounded confidence, so if you look her in the eye and make her feel like she's the only woman on the planet in that moment, guess what? That energy is magnetic. That energy is intoxicating. She'll feel a pull towards you that she can't logically explain. And here's the key: attraction is not logical. It's emotional. It bypasses the rational brain and goes straight into her body, straight into her heart. And you don't need youth, money, or a six-pack to make that happen. But here's where most men screw it up. They buy into society's lie that their value is purely external. So when life knocks them down, when age catches up, when injuries happen, when businesses fail, when money disappears, they stop showing up as men. They start sulking. They start complaining. They start approaching women or even their own wives from a place of neediness. Please love me even though I don't have much left. And that's the kiss of death. Because the moment you look to her for validation, you've already lost her respect. And if a woman doesn't respect you, she cannot love you the way you want her to. Respect, admiration, and love are earned not by external status, but by how you carry yourself. When you walk into a room with self-assuredness, when you speak with certainty, when you radiate calm leadership, you're telling the world, I know who I am. I don't need anything outside of me to complete me. That's what women fall in love with. Lips, not your bank balance, not your age, not your physical condition. They fall in love with how safe and feminine they feel in your presence. Because the more masculine you are, masculine in your energy, not just in your body, the more space she has to relax into her femininity. That polarity is what creates the spark. Let me be blunt. If you're focused on what you've lost, your youth, or your health, your wealth, you're radiating weakness. You're broadcasting, I'm not enough anymore, and that signal repels women. On the other hand, if you're focused on what you can still give, your wisdom, your steadiness, your humor, your emotional strength, then you're radiating abundance. You're saying without words, I am still the prize. I am still the man. And that's when women light up around you. They can feel it in your body language, in your tone, in the way you touch them, in the way you hold space for them when they're emotional. That's the magic. At the end of the day, attraction is not about perfection. It's about experience. She doesn't need you to be flawless. She doesn't need you to be 25 again. She doesn't need you to have everything figured out. She needs to feel alive when she's around you. She needs to feel like the world melts away when you lock eyes with her. She needs to feel that you are her rock, even if the storms of life have beaten you down. That feeling is what keeps her coming back. That feeling is what makes her say, I don't care if he's broke. I don't care if he's old. I don't care if he's not perfect. He's mine. One of the biggest killers of attraction is neediness. And here's what most guys don't realize. Neediness isn't just calling her too much, texting her nonstop, or begging for her attention. Neediness is an energy. It's the vibe you give off when your happiness depends on her. It's the subtle undertone of, please choose me, please reassure me, please tell me I'm good enough. Women can smell that a mile away. And the second they sense it, they lose respect for you. Because what you're communicating underneath all those actions is that you don't believe you're enough on your own. Self-pity is right next to neediness. When you sit there telling her, or even just showing her through your body language, that you're a victim of life, that you're old, that you're broke, that you're limited, that everything is hard, you're basically asking her to mother you. You're putting her in the position of caretaker instead of lover. And guess what? Women are not attracted to their children. They don't want to date or sleep with a guy they have to babysit. They want a man who inspires them, a man they can look up to, a man they can trust to handle himself when things get rough. Self-pity is like pouring acid on attraction. Now, chasing is just the external behavior that grows out of neediness. When you don't believe you're enough, you overcompensate, you call too much, you text too much, you try too hard to buy her love with gifts or constant attention. You smother her. And instead of her wanting to come closer, she starts pulling away. Because the reality is, the more you chase, the faster she runs. Women want to feel chosen, yes, but they don't want to feel like they're your only source of worth. There's a big difference between pursuing from a place of strength versus chasing from a place of weakness. So what's the opposite of all this? Confidence. And let's be clear, confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean you walk around bragging about yourself, trying to convince everyone how great you are. Real confidence is quiet, it's steady. It's when you know who you are and you don't need her approval to validate it. You can look her in the eye, totally present, totally calm, without trying to prove anything. That's attractive. That's magnetic. Because women can feel when a man is at peace with himself. They can feel when his cup is already full, when he doesn't need her to fill it for him. And confidence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from experience, from overcoming setbacks, from getting knocked down and getting back up. When you've lived life, when you've faced failures, when you've had to reinvent yourself, you naturally develop that grounded presence. You stop needing everything to go your way in order to feel good about yourself. You know you can handle whatever comes. And that self-assuredness radiates in every word, every gesture, every interaction. That's why women can be drawn to an older man, even if he doesn't have the body or money he once had, because his presence feels stable in a world of chaos. Grounded presence is the ultimate antidote to neediness. So when you're grounded, you don't chase, you don't cling, you don't beg, you don't pout when things don't go your way. You lead, you invite, you inspire, you create space for her to come toward you naturally. And because you're not desperate for her validation, she feels free. Free to desire you, free to trust you, free to open up to you. That's what creates deep attraction, not manipulation, not playing games, but simply being centered in your own masculine core. Here's the paradox. The less you need her, the more she wants you. When you stop grasping for her attention and start living with quiet confidence, she feels it. It makes her lean in. It makes her invest more. It makes her chase you. Not because you're ignoring her, not because you're playing hard to get, but because she can feel that your love is a choice, not a lifeline. And that's the kind of man women don't walk away from. Most guys who feel like they've lost their edge focus almost obsessively on what they no longer have. They'll say things like, well, I used to be in shape, but now my back hurts. Or I used to make good money, but the business went under. Or I can't compete with younger guys anymore. And the more they repeat these stories, the more powerless they feel. What they don't realize is that this constant focus on their limitations keeps them stuck in a state of weakness. It becomes their identity, and women can sense that energy. A man who's defined by what he's lost is unattractive because he's no longer leading with value. He's leading with excuses. Instead, the shift that changes everything is when you focus on what you still bring to the table emotionally. Because let's be honest, youth fades. Money can be lost, bodies break down. But your emotional presence, your wisdom, your humor, your ability to create experiences, your capacity to make a woman feel seen, heard, and cherished, those are things that don't depend on a six-pack or a stock portfolio. Those are internal resources, and they're far more powerful in the long run than external possessions. Think about it. Women don't tell their friends, "Oh my God, I love him because he's got a 401k." They don't gush, "I can't stop thinking about him because his abs are amazing." No, they say, "I feel like I can be myself around him," or "he makes me laugh like no one else," or "he just gets me." Those are emotional experiences. That's the stuff that keeps her hooked. And if you're sitting around obsessing over what you don't have, you're missing the opportunity to amplify what actually matters most. Now, here's the tricky part. A lot of men dismiss the emotional side of relationships as soft or not masculine. They think being a man is only about providing or protecting in physical terms. But the reality is the strongest men are the ones who can be emotionally available without losing their center. It doesn't mean being weak. It doesn't mean being needy. It means having the courage to connect on a deeper level while still maintaining your strength. Women crave that balance. The man who can hold them when they're vulnerable but also stand firm when life gets messy. That balance is irresistible. When you lead with your emotional value, you're saying, "I am the safe harbor in your storm. I am the man who won't crumble when you're upset. I am the man who can joke with you, play with you, and at the same time ground you when you're spinning." That's power. And guess what? You can do that whether you're rich or broke, whether you're 25 or 75, whether you can run marathons or you walk with a cane. Emotional leadership is timeless. It's not dependent on age or circumstances. It's a skill. And once you cultivate it, you can create attraction no matter what stage of life you're in. But here's the catch: you can't fake it. Women have razor sharp intuition. They know when you're putting on an act. They know when you're trying to mask insecurity with charm or jokes. They know when your confidence is just bravado. Real emotional value comes from doing the inner work, from actually believing that you're enough as you are, from knowing deep in your bones that you're not defined by your limitations. When you've owned your scars, when you've made peace with your past, when you've stopped hiding from who you are, you show up differently. And that difference is exactly what draws her in. So stop fixating on what you can't do. Stop comparing yourself to younger men or wealthier men. That's a game you'll never win because there will always be someone younger, richer, or fitter. The question isn't, what don't I have? The question is, what do I bring that no one else can bring the way I do? Your story, your perspective, your emotional depth, your ability to love without needing, your presence. That's the stuff that makes you unforgettable. That's the stuff that makes a woman stay up at night thinking about you, not your bank account, not your biceps, not your birth date. One of the most dangerous traps a man can fall into is losing his sense of purpose. When life knocks you down, whether it's age catching up with you, your finances collapsing, or your body not working the way it used to, it's easy to drift. It's easy to wake up in the morning without any fire, without any vision, just going through the motions. And when that happens, you stop being attractive. Not just to women, but to life itself, because purpose is what gives you direction. Purpose is what lights up your energy. Without it, you become dull, lifeless, and uninspiring. And no woman is going to stay in love with a man who's given up on himself. You've got to understand, women are naturally drawn to men who are on a mission. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. If you're just sitting around reminiscing about the past, talking about how things used to be, she tunes out. She doesn't want to relive your glory days. She wants to feel your passion now. She wants to see you lit up about where you're headed, even if the destination isn't glamorous. Purpose doesn't mean you have to change the world. It can be as simple as being committed to growth, to contribution, to creating something meaningful with the time you have. That energy is intoxicating. Passion is ageless. You could be 60, 70, even 80 years old, but if you've got that spark in your eyes, that sense of drive, you'll outshine men half your age who are just drifting, because passion is contagious. It pulls people in. When you talk about what excites you, when you're chasing a vision that matters to you, your woman feels it. She feels the life force in you, and that makes her want to be close to you. It makes her want to support you, to follow you, to share in your journey. That's the kind of bond that can't be broken by wrinkles or empty pockets. Now let's be real, when you lose your purpose, you also lose polarity. Polarity is what creates sexual attraction. If you're not leading yourself, you can't lead her. If you're not committed to something bigger than the relationship, she'll feel like she's your only focus. And while that might sound romantic, it actually suffocates her. Women don't want to be your purpose. They want to be cherished, loved, and included. But they also want to see that your life has direction beyond them. Because when you're on a mission, she can trust your strength. She can relax into her femininity. She can admire you as a man who knows where he's going. Too many men make the mistake of thinking, I'll find my purpose once I get the money back. Once I'm healthy again, once I'm younger. That's backwards. Your purpose isn't waiting on your circumstances. Your purpose is what gives you the energy to change your circumstances. You could be broke, you could be injured, you could be starting over at rock bottom, and still, if you've got clarity of purpose, you'll walk differently. You'll talk differently. You'll carry yourself with a kind of quiet power that women notice instantly. That energy says, I may not have much right now, but I'm going somewhere, and you'd be lucky to walk beside me. The beauty of purpose is that it makes you unshakable. Because when you're living for something bigger than yourself, you don't collapse when life throws you curveballs. You may bend, but you don't break. And that resilience is deeply attractive. Women know life is unpredictable. They know storms are coming. What they want is a man who can steer the ship no matter what. Your purpose is your compass. It keeps you steady. It keeps you centered. And it shows her that she can trust you not just when things are easy, but when things are hard. That trust is what keeps her connected. And here's the paradox. The moment you reconnect with your purpose, you stop caring so much about whether she comes back or not. Because you're too busy living. You're too busy creating. You're too busy chasing something that fills your soul. And ironically, that's exactly when she feels the strongest pull toward you. Because nothing is more attractive to a woman than a man who doesn't need her to feel complete, but who chooses to share his already full life with her. That's the essence of masculine energy. And that's why purpose isn't just optional, it's everything. One of the greatest mistakes men make in relationships is sitting back and waiting for a woman to tell them what to do. They want her to decide. They want her to give them direction. They want her to lead the dance. And while a woman might tolerate that for a short while, over time it destroys attraction. Because women aren't designed to carry that weight. They want to feel your certainty. They want to know you've got the confidence to make decisions, to chart the course, to take the lead. Not because you're controlling her, but because leadership creates safety. Certainty creates stability. When you're clear, she can relax. When you hesitate, she starts to question whether she can really trust you. Think about it. If you're constantly asking for her permission to be yourself, what message are you sending? You're telling her you don't trust your own judgment. You're telling her you need her to validate every move you make. And while she might love you, she's not going to feel turned on by that. Because women aren't attracted to men they have to mother. They're attracted to men they can lean on. They want to know that if chaos erupts, you won't freeze. You won't look to them to fix it. You'll step up. You'll lead with certainty. That's what separates a man from a boy. Now, let's be clear. Leading with certainty doesn't mean barking orders or trying to dominate. That's not leadership. That's insecurity wearing a mask. Real leadership is calm. It's steady. It's inclusive. You make the decision, but you take her feelings into account. You move forward with clarity, but you don't bulldoze. That balance is powerful because it says, I respect you, but I don't need you to tell me who I am or what I should do. That kind of leadership allows her to relax into her femininity. It lets her feel safe surrendering, knowing she's with a man who won't collapse when things get tough. Waiting for validation is a subtle form of weakness. Every time you ask, is this okay? Do you still like me? Did I do it right? You're bleeding out your masculinity. You're handing her the frame of the relationship. And the moment she feels like she's in charge of the frame, she starts to resent it. She may not say it out loud, but deep down she's thinking, why do I have to be the strong one? Why do I have to carry this relationship? Women don't want that role. They want to feel your strength. They want to feel your decisiveness. They want to know you can stand on your own 2 feet without their constant reassurance. Clarity is attractive because it removes doubt. When you're clear about who you are, it's where you're going, and what you want, you radiate confidence. You don't need to convince her. You don't need to explain yourself endlessly. You don't waffle back and forth. You simply know. And when you know she feels it, that knowing energy is grounding. It allows her to let go of her own doubts because she sees that you're not shaken. And in a world full of uncertainty, a man who carries clarity like that becomes rare and valuable. But here's the thing, you can't fake certainty. If you're putting on an act, if you're pretending to know when you really don't, she'll sense it. Women are unbelievably intuitive. They can spot hesitation in your tone, in your body language, in the way you move. That's why the key isn't pretending. The key is doing the inner work so that your certainty is real. That means getting clear on your values, your vision, your boundaries. That means being willing to make mistakes and own them. That means trusting yourself enough to move forward even when you don't have all the answers. That kind of authentic certainty is magnetic. When you lead with that kind of energy, you stop seeking approval. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay to be who you are. You stop asking for permission to live your life. And ironically, that's when people, especially women, start giving you more respect, more admiration, and more love. Because nobody wants to follow a man who doubts himself. They want to follow the man who knows, who decides, who moves forward with conviction. And when you embody that, you create attraction without even trying. One of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction is the way women test men. A lot of guys take it personally. They think she's being difficult, that she's trying to push them away, or that she's just moody and irrational. But what most men don't realize is that women test for a reason. They want to know if you're solid. They want to know if your confidence is real or just a fast aid. They want to see if you'll crumble under pressure or if you'll stand strong. These tests are not about cruelty. They're about safety, because a woman needs to know she can trust you with her heart, her body, and her future. Think about it like this life is full of storms, challenges, setbacks, disappointments. They're guaranteed. A woman knows that. And deep down, she's asking herself, if I tie myself to this man, will he steer the ship through the storm? Or will he panic and sink us both? Every little test she throws your way is her way of checking your seaworthiness. It's not about the specific words she says. It's about the deeper question. Are you strong enough to handle me? Are you strong enough to handle life? If you collapse when she gets emotional, if you snap when she challenges you, if you lose your frame when she doubts you, you fail the test. And failing too many of those tests erodes attraction fast. Now here's where most men screw it up. They get defensive, they argue. They try to explain themselves to death, or worse, they get angry and accuse her of being unreasonable. But understand this, when you react emotionally to her tests, you're showing her you're not centered. You're showing her you need her to be calm and agreeable in order for you to stay calm. That's weakness. Because what she really wants to feel is that no matter what mood she's in, no matter what storm she brings, you'll remain grounded. She wants to feel your strength. She wants to see that your center doesn't depend on her behavior. Passing her test doesn't mean agreeing with everything she says. It doesn't mean becoming a doormat. It means staying calm, confident, and playful under pressure. If she throws a sarcastic comment your way, don't sulk. Smile, tease her back lightly. If she questions your decision, don't launch into a 5-minute justification. Stand firm, explain once with certainty, and move forward. If she gets emotional, don't match her chaos. Breathe, hold space, and let her storm pass. That's leadership. That's strength. And when she feels that from you, her respect and attraction grow. It's also important to understand that tests don't stop just because you've been with her for years. In fact, the longer you're together, the more she'll test you. Not because she's trying to drive you crazy, but because she needs reassurance. Not with words, but with your actions, that you're still the man she can count on. Attraction isn't a one-time achievement. It's a dynamic, living thing. And women keep testing to make sure it's still alive. If you expect her to stop, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. A wise man doesn't resent the tests. He expects them, he welcomes them. He knows there are opportunities to demonstrate strength. And here's the paradox, the more you pass her tests, the less she needs to test you. Because she relaxes, she trusts. She knows you're not going to fold. But if you fail repeatedly, the opposite happens. She escalates the tests. She gets more difficult, more emotional, more distant. Not because she wants to, but because she's trying to confirm whether or not you're really the man she thought you were. And if you continue to collapse, she eventually withdraws her love completely. Not out of spite, but out of self-protection. She simply can't stay attracted to a man she doesn't respect. At the end of the day, women's tests are not obstacles, they're invitations. Invitations to rise higher. Invitations to embody more strength, more calm, more clarity. Every time she tests you, she's giving you a chance to prove not with words, but with presence, that you're the man she can trust. The man who won't crumble when life gets messy. The man who won't collapse when she gets emotional. And when you embrace that role, when you pass those tests consistently, attraction deepens in a way that no amount of money, youth, or physical perfection can ever replicate. Most men grow up thinking that strength is purely external. They believe it's about how much money they make, how big their muscles are, how young and fit they look, or how much social status they can accumulate. And while all of those things can enhance your life, none of them define true masculine strength. Because here's the reality: money can disappear overnight, muscles shrink with age, looks fade, and social status is fragile. If your sense of worth is tied only to those externals, you're living on shaky ground. The first time life takes them away, you'll crumble. And when you crumble, your woman will see it, and attraction dies. True masculine strength comes from the inside. It's that quiet confidence that doesn't waver, even when the outside world falls apart. It's the belief deep in your bones that you are enough, regardless of what you own, what you look like, or what anyone thinks of you. That kind of strength doesn't depend on circumstances, doesn't require validation. It doesn't fluctuate with wins and losses. It's steady. And it's exactly what makes women feel safe and drawn to you. Because they know life is unpredictable. What they want is a man whose center doesn't move when the storms hit. Here's the paradox: when you stop trying to prove your strength externally, you actually become stronger internally. Most guys waste their lives trying to show off, flashing cars, flexing at the gym, bragging about their careers. But underneath all that, they're terrified of being exposed as insecure. Women can feel that. They can sense when a man's confidence is skin deep. And it doesn't matter how good he looks or how much he owns. If his inner world is shaky, she won't feel secure. But when you've built real confidence from the inside out, you don't need to prove anything. You can walk into a room silently, and people will feel your presence. That's power. Inner confidence is built through facing challenges and not running from them. It's forged in failure, in loss, in pain, in getting knocked down and choosing to rise again. Every setback becomes an opportunity to reinforce your foundation. Because when you've been through hell and survived, you stop fearing it. You know you can handle whatever comes. That gives you a calm edge that can't be faked. Women notice that energy instantly. They can feel when a man is unshakable, not because life's been easy, but because he's proven to himself that nothing can break him. That's the kind of strength that reignites attraction, even if you're older, broke, or physically limited. Another thing about true masculine strength is that it's not about controlling others. Weak men try to dominate, manipulate, or intimidate because they're afraid of losing control. But real strength isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about staying centered no matter what outcome happens. When a woman sees you standing calm in the face of her emotions, when she sees you steady in the middle of chaos, when she sees that you don't need to bully or beg to get respect, she relaxes. That's when her femininity flows. That's when the spark reignites. Because your strength gives her permission to soften. And let's be real, external strength can complement inner strength, but it should never replace it. Taking care of your body, working hard, and building success are great, but they're additions, not foundations. The foundation is your self-belief. Lips, without that, all the external stuff is just decoration. You could be jacked, rich, and successful, and still lose her if you crumble emotionally. On the other hand, you could be broke, older, and limited physically, but if you radiate unshakable confidence, you can still pull her back in. Because women aren't comparing your bank account or your body to another man's. They're scanning for one thing: can I trust his strength? And strength is an inside job. So stop obsessing over what you've lost or what you lack externally. Start building the muscle that never fades your inner confidence. Train yourself to stay calm under pressure. Learn to lead without needing approval. Own your scars instead of hiding them. Show up as the man who knows he's enough as he is. That's true masculine strength. And when you embody it, you reignite attraction in a way no amount of money, status, or youth ever could.